back chair?
I'm fine tonight.
I'll take a couch.
Coming out of your budget.
I have money in my budget.
Yes, you do.
We're pretty frugal.
Yes, you are. I want to say tight as bark on a, you know what?
Yeah, we're tight.
You are tight. Many folks, right?
I don't have an email from her. I could send her a text.
We'll give her a minute or so, because we're live now, right? So I guess this microphone is, here's your microphone works, but we had a problem with the other microphone?
Yeah, it's this one here.
Bronwyn, how you doing? Here, I'll go get it. You'll hold me. Oh, no, hey, it's not right.
That's sad.
Long time no see. They're close enough. I'll make sure, you know.
It's just weird, this morning, it was.
It is weird.
It was
Yeah.
way far away from you guys.
Did I miss the memo, right?
Yeah. It's like, what is it?
What? Can we eat?
So cheap.
Grantham was eating for dinner?
Oh,
I think it's forget. We Give me this up, please.
Yeah. Yoki, if you were part of.
so you want this turned to the board now, I'm presuming, right? This is now, should be turned up here. I'll just do it. That didn't work,
Yeah.
Patrick.
Yeah, it just doesn't require a solution.
Yeah.
It just requires, let's get
Yeah.
it over there.
Okay. So, we can start? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 6:32. I'd like to start this meeting. And rise if you're able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Andrew Benson? Here. Ruth Groff? Here. Bronwyn Losi? Here. Joseph Wetmore?
Here.
Edward Levine?
Here. Can everyone hear us okay? Joe, can you hear us when you're home?
I can hear you, nobody else is talking.
Well, so far so good. Thank you. Okay, so let's...
I'll interrupt if I can't hear anyone.
Okay, thank you. So, we have roll call. We have now number 4 in your packet, public hearing. Would someone like to open the public hearing for proposed local law number 2 of 2023 to amend and update town code, chapter 108, building codes?
I'll move it.
Joe moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ruth seconds. You're gonna run.
Yeah, I know. It's too bad they're not thirds and fourths, like it's, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor? Any opposed?
So public hearing is open. Anybody want to comment on the public hearing pertaining to the local law number 2 as far as the building codes go? So, we need to at least pause for a minute, so my compliments to Mrs. Munson. She had to do another meeting today on top of this one, and she is one person short. And she still accomplished that along with her assistants, so thank you so much. Because these are no easy feats when we have to do 2 meetings in one day.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. A lot of things go unnoticed unless you're in the town a lot, in the town hall a lot, as far as all the things that have to go on. And I appreciate it. I'm sure the board does also. Somebody give me a holler when the minute's up in case somebody wants to make a comment.
You're good.
I'm good? Okay. In that case, would someone like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I will.
There you go, look at you.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Number 5, resolution adopting local law number 2 of 2023, local law to amend and update the town code, chapter 108, building codes.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Oh. Any further discussion?
Wait, hold on a second. Okay, it
I
was,
want to try some of that bird shell syrup.
it was Andrew, you made it, and then Ed?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Anyone?
Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Ruth Groff?
Yes.
Brian Winlosi?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes.
Edward Levine?
Yes. Number 6 on our packet is privilege of the floor limited to 20 minutes, for a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Is there anybody who has signed up for privilege of the floor?
Yes, there is.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Munson.
You can go out here. You can go right up.
Oh, I go up there?
Yeah, right up to the table where the microphone is. Oh, over on this one. Sorry, I was pointing there.
We have a list of rules and regs, right?
I'm gonna take
I'll get it, I get it.
No, no, come over. That's
Okay. Thank you. So, privilege of the floor. The public shall be allowed to speak only during the public comment, privilege of the floor period of the meeting, or during public hearings, or when they have reserved or been granted time upon the agenda. Speakers must be recognized by the preceding officer or his or her designee and step to the front of the room. Speakers must give their name and state whether they are speaking as a resident, a member of the public, or for any other person or organization. Speakers must limit their remarks to 3 minutes, and comments unrelated to the subject matter of the public hearing are not allowed. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they have to another speaker. With the permission of the presiding officer, a board or committee member may interrupt the speaker for the purpose of clarification or information, and not for any other reason or to debate or disagree. Such time shall not be counted towards the speaker's 3-minute limit. All remarks shall be addressed to the board or committee as a body and not to any member therefore, nor to any member of the public, whether present at such public hearing or not. Speakers shall observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or their representatives may address the board by written communications. Written documents and evidence shall be submitted as part of the record of the public hearing. Persons who exceed 3 minutes violate rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, or good taste, or deliberately or by their behavior interfere with other person's right to comment or participate in the public hearing, or who deliberately or by their behavior interfere with governmental administration will be cut off, removed, or have not recognized comments removed from the record, or any combination of the above. Before our comments or statements will be excised from the record, the speaker will be verbally warned that they are in violation of the rules for this public hearing. These rules are in the back and have been posted at every meeting. Having said that, we have the sign-up sheet here. We have one person's name, and then other people will be given a chance to also use the privilege of the floor if they choose to after the maximum of time of 3 minutes is used up. So, first one is Eric Trotter.
For those of you who haven't met before, my name is Eric Trotter. I've been a Lansing resident for the last 50 years. And I come to you today to express a concern, and I hope it isn't judged as just being a criticism, because I don't mean it that way. But I think we have a bit of a problem with oversight, if there is any, of the Zoning Board of Appeals. There have been decisions made recently that I absolutely find irrational. I have all kinds of documentation on some of these decisions, but I really don't want to get into a personality conflict with anybody else in the neighborhood. So that makes it a little bit of a delicate topic. I've mentioned this problem to Ed before because it really concerns me. I live down on the lake, immediately adjacent to the railroad. I don't know if you folks are familiar with that or to what extent, but the railroad can be pretty difficult to get along with. And the last thing we want to be doing is kicking that hornet's nest. And it's been kicked enough that we have all received a letter, this was back a couple of years ago now, from the railroad threatening to come down there and cut off all of our electric lines, water lines, and everything else which they consider to be encroachments. So I went to the Zoning Board of Appeals when this particular proposal was presented for a variance, and I told the board at that time, be careful, this is the railroad. Well, now we have a building being built on railroad property. I think that's going to be a problem, and I think it's going to have a negative impact on a number of us who have been completely ignored. The fellow most directly impacted upon has written multiple 19-page rationale commentaries on why this variance should not be allowed. He was summarily dismissed, at least in his opinion, and having been on the meeting, I have to say I agree with him completely. He has a well-documented proposal laid out, and basically if we look at, there are certain criteria that are supposed to be followed before the ZBA grants an area variance, and every single one of them was ignored. The variance that was granted is in direct contravention of all of our local ordinances in this regard. I'd be happy to furnish details to this board if you desire to have them. I bring this to your attention tonight, not as the enemy, but as somebody who's trying to point out that we have a problem that needs to be addressed. Because right now we have a Zoning Board of Appeals who is a sovereign entity with no accountability. And from reading the State Department regulations on this, you as a town board can't even change their decisions. So I think we have a problem that needs to be addressed, and I wanted to bring it to your attention as a concerned citizen of the town. I thank you for your attention.
Okay. I would like a copy of that. If you have it in an email, I'll take it.
I
If you have a
can
copy,
give you a packet.
that's okay.
Yep.
And what we'll do is we'll scan it, and we'll send it to the other board members also, okay?
Okay. Yeah, fine.
If you have a copy of it, I'll take it. If not, you can make a copy.
I know this is a little messy. I mean, I will have to ask the property owner if he is willing to allow that.
Okay, fair enough.
The zoning board already has it.
Okay,
All 19 pages the first time and 10 pages the second time, so it would be easily available there also.
okay,
But if I can be available, I'll be happy to.
okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, does anyone else want to exercise the privilege of the floor? If not, could you pass that down to Mrs. Nelson, please? Okay, item 7 in our packet is the 2021 draft audit presentation by Insero and Company by Patrick Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Joe, you don't have this information at all, Joe?
Is this the one, is this the packet that was emailed to us?
Did you email this to us, Patrick?
There's been a second review of it through our review process. There's some minor edits, no changes to the numbers. We have removed the stamp that said no assurance because we've gone through all the proper procedures at this point. It's now in draft, official draft form. There's one thing we're working on, but I guess to answer the question, there shouldn't be very many changes. Form A, hiding rows that had no numbers, things like that. So maybe expanded on a couple of narratives and management discussion and analysis to better indicate variances from one year to the next. But for the most part, there's no changes, other than it's gone through the process and it's basically ready to issue and final once accepted.
Okay. So I guess the question will be, since one of our board members is going by Zoom, if we're comfortable enough to accept this tonight or not. So I guess we'll get to that point after the presentation.
Yeah, there may have been, well, it was definitely emailed to you, the draft version, and Mary Ellen.
So I'm sure Mary Ellen moved it on to everybody else, as I recall.
Yes, yeah, it went to everybody.
Was that what, last week?
Right.
Or the week before or
But
something.
there was another one sent, this one that I handed out was sent out today
Oh,
Oh,
to
Okay.
Mary Ellen. But like I say, that was just minor formatting, there's no changes in the numbers.
That was my mistake, I didn't realize that was in the draft, in the draft we got before.
Well, the day of the meeting is a little problematic. But, so, I guess, on with the presentation.
Okay, and I'll make the presentation very short. We have, what I handed out was the executive summary of everything that we provide, which is basically the same as what you've had in the prior years. I'll turn to the first page of the executive summary. It lists all the reports, the basic financial reports on the top, on the left side, the various documents. On the right side, the results or findings. The first couple paragraphs deal with the main full audit report, the basic financial statements, and there's an auditor's report on supplementary information and compliance with laws and regulations in internal control matters. That's all grouped together in one document. And each of the results or findings say unmodified opinion or no material internal control weaknesses or financial statement weaknesses or significant deficiencies. So unmodified is good. That is the opinion that you want to have. Any modifications are departures from generally accepted accounting principles. So the main document is the language, the opinions or certification is what you want. The next section down, communication with those charged with governance is required for all audits. There's a letter in part of the packet, but just the bulleted items you should be familiar with, the qualitative aspects, difficulties encountered, corrected misstatements, disagreements with management. We didn't have any concerns to report in that letter. The qualitative aspect section is really the biggest part, where it identifies policies and procedures in your notes to the financial statements, whether there are new accounting standards that you had to adopt, which there were none. And I should say we presented the December 2001 financial audit, so the numbers go back a ways. So and we'll talk more about that, but I hadn't seen the 2022 numbers yet to compare, but as we'll get into it, you can see both the process itself and the financial information is, as we've reported in the past, no concerns with the financials, the fund balances. They're pretty much within your guidelines. So again, the qualitative aspect section goes on to point out disclosures that are important, any changes in disclosures, and anything that had to be adopted as far as accounting standards and estimates. So there's a lot of things regarding the items that I always talk about that are outside the fund financial statements. So we'll have a 5-year trend analysis of each of the funds, which are a short-term kind of look at things, so just like a 1-year look, the balance at the end of the year and the activities for that year. I'll show at the very end of this executive summary what the reconciling items that go into bridging the fund financial statements to the government-wide, but try to keep it brief. Those estimates are, again, primarily capital assets and depreciation, retirement system obligations, and post-retirement health obligations. So those are all, very long-term assets or liabilities that don't really hit the fund financial statements balance sheet. There's a management comment. The rest of it, beyond the qualitative aspects, it's really about the accounting process, the auditing process. We didn't have any difficulties encountered. We had some delays. I didn't want to point that out as a difficulty encountered. There's just some transition and understanding what we're asking for and getting the documentation. And that's one thing. As I mentioned, there's one piece left, is whether or not we really had the final modified budget to clear some budget over expenditure line items. Okay. And once we get that, we'll either clear them or just make reference to them that there were some over expenditures, but nothing significant at all. No major adjusting entries that we had to do, no disagreements with management, and that's really covers the rest of that letter. So financials, the accuracy and what we did and what we were able to get and audit the numbers were fine as usual without many adjustments. The adjustments are always in the calculations that we assist with in making those government-wide financials with the capital assets and other long-term liabilities. The management comment letter in the packet, it just defines weaknesses in internal controls and material deficiencies, significant deficiencies. We didn't have anything to mention in that letter. We do point out upcoming accounting standard updates coming down the line. There's also a letter on the justice courts. We look at a representative sample of the money flowing through the justice courts, the money on hand at the end of the year, whether it's accounted for, if it's earmarked in the right buckets for if it's owed to somebody or if it's owed to the town or if it's bail held, etc. So no issues in the justice court letter. Pause before I get into just a brief look at the financial highlights, and if there are any questions on what I just went through in the reports themselves.
Any questions for Pat so far?
So, again, it's 2021, back to 2017. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but you can see the first, so the even pages are going to be the snapshot at the end of each of the years, each of the 5 years. The odd numbers are going to be the revenues and expenditures and other changes in fund balances for each of the 5 years. So, starting with the two general funds, the highway funds, water, sewer. I think that's it. I think we have all we don't show capital projects, but you can see the main couple of funds, the general town-wide fund. The assets, the trend of the assets for the year-end balances at 1.1 million, the liabilities, the various pots of fund balances with non-spendable, restricted, etc. And really the leftovers, what we like to see, how that compares to your future budget, your next year's budget, which is about 30%, or 2 to 3 months, I think. Mm-hmm. So those are always, we always look at those and discuss those. Those are, we feel are reasonable. We've appropriated $200,000 to the, basically budgeted an extra $200,000 in appropriations in excess of revenues at the end of 21. So that's meaning you're saying that you are comfortable spending down $200,000 in fund balance in 2022. I don't know how the fund was what Markham ended up this year. Just turning the page. You can see the trend of revenues and expenditures in the general fund townwide. Pretty consistent with the prior year. On the revenue side, most of the expenditure side, there's just one area, culture and recreation, went up a couple $100,000. Youth and program, I think, was the main items there. So the net assets, or the fund balance dropped by $135,000 in 2021. But still, we talked about the ending fund balance amount or percentage of your budget. Just working along, you can see the outside village more condensed, and the assets are heading in a good direction with the ending total assets of 597. That's also represents your fund balance, and the bulk of that unassigned, or actually about 126% of your expenditures, 1 year's of expenditures. Just continuing on, there's a general fund outside village, and that's the the revenues and expenditures for the 5 years. I'm not going to get into too many details. Again, trending in good directions from our perspective. Nothing really stands out significantly up or down. Town fund highway fund town-wide, page 6. You can see that the assigned, or really all this is a special revenue fund, so there is no unassigned, so that fund balance, if you carve out the restricted and non-spendable law, is a bit low. That's the only fund I can point out to you that you may have any concerns with the assigned line item. You can see how it's dropped in the last couple of years. But you have some flexibility to allocate some things different within the funds and address that. I'm just going to skip ahead. Highway, not really get into too much detail on the highway funds. For the sewer and water, those seem very reasonable. Fund balances are comfortable, I should say, in those funds. I do want to, so I can give you time to look through those, but you probably have some projections with some of these years of going forward of your own for trends for some of those funds, or all of those funds. So I'm going to try to focus more on the fund financials to talk about it with this presentation, but if you skip way ahead to page 14, you can see overall the fund balances of $5.4 million, basically up about $600,000. And then there's the reconciliation, what's added in and deducted to get to the full-blown accrual government-wide statement. So capital assets, equity interest in the joint venture, which is Bolton Point, your share about 20%. The deductions, mainly the bonds payable, the post-retirement benefits, as I talked about. Those total deductions really didn't change much over the from the prior year. The total additions, mainly in the capital assets, is just due to depreciation. So all in all, the bottom line government-wide net position is only $80,000 different, positive, on those sets of government-wide statements. So just want to give you kind of a quick look at the numbers through 21, and again, no concerns with the fund balances, and nothing that we really have to point out as compliance issues or internal control issues, and the clean opinions on on our letterhead.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any questions for Pat?
I just want to clarify that you're saying that the draft you sent us a couple of weeks ago has been changed to the current draft? Some numbers have changed here and there?
Not any of the numbers. We've hidden some rows that didn't have any numbers in them, just some cosmetic things, really. We did not change any of them.
Okay. And are you changing anything? It sounded like you said there was a couple more things you needed to finish off.
As it stands right now, there's some budget variance pages in the back. Let me just get the page numbers. It's currently showing a couple of the line items as being overspent. You usually clear those out and make budget transfers to get those variances positive or not overspent in the expense side. There's nothing that's significant at all, but if there is a modified budget that we're missing, we've asked Mary Ellen again to, if we can try to get something that may resolve those over expenditures. The funds in total are fine, they're not overspent. It's only going to be a minor change to change the final budget, clear those over expenditures within line items, or we'll just make reference to that certain items in the budget variance schedules were overspent, and that's a matter of just pointing out to that, not really saying much other than pointing out that, look at the budget variances and certain ones are overspent.
Well, what page are you looking at?
Page 36. So there's, for instance, the general government support line item, and that consists of a lot of the trial balance or AED items. Right now it says actual expenditures were $69,000 over budget. And then there's another one down below that's $10,000. So just a few of those. The only other one I can see is on 37, which is the transfers from one of the funds to another fund, $17,000. So it's not a concern at all. It's just a matter of if we did formal budget modifications to move things around in the budget.
Can I speak? It could be that what I sent Patrick might not have been, it said final on it, but I wasn't here then, so maybe it wasn't the final.
We'd love to get,
So I'll look, and then I'll call him tomorrow to see if there's a report that would give us that.
and that doesn't change anything else in all of the other funds or footnotes or financials before that, prior to the budget comparison schedules.
So you're saying they're just basically reclassifications?
Right, you're just going to do a formal budget modification to move money from basically one line item to another within the fund.
Within the fund, okay.
Any other questions for Patrick? Before we get on to the test the water of the board to see if they're comfortable moving forward with passing this or not, I see this basically as almost as though the town were a human being. This was a medical exam, and you're looking for vitals, looking for tweaks here, tweaks there, whatever. So in your opinion, doctor, do you think that we're healthy? And I am going to be frank with you that 2022 will paint a little bit of a different picture. We're not using fund balance for that. We actually had to raise taxes, unfortunately, by 20 cents a thousand. Using money for ARPA for equipment, because we need to get our fund balances back up, because our fund balance policy is between 3 and 6 months. But the good news is that we got through the plague, and now we are alive to discuss it. And that's okay. And the town still moves forward functionally, it's just a matter of tweaking things. And if you look at other rates in town, you'll see that the town of Ithaca still is above us by 20 cents, and they have a road tax, and we don't, and Dry is twice as much, and so there's a variety of others that are twice as much on that. So, but having said that, a little background there, and people can check all the different rates to see how we fare, that this is the same rate as in 2007. And having said that, do we look healthy? In general. I didn't see any red flags. I mean,
I think I said that along the way, that the
yes,
fund balance is.
that's fine. That's fine. I just want to have a summary here.
It
Sometimes
really isn't, it's
Fund
not
balance
the
is being worked
scope of what we're reporting on, but I can
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah.
The letters don't really address that, but.
Well, but the fund balance is a vital tool because we've just shown how important it was to get through the plague as salt went up by a third, as fuel went up, as,
And we talked,
amongst other things.
And we were kind of focusing on the unassigned or the leftovers. There's pots of reserved fund balances available to them.
Yep. Any questions for Patrick? Okay, so, having here none, what's our comfort level moving forward in adopting this?
I would like to see the final version before we vote on it. I just feel that approving a document that's going to be modified doesn't feel like it's the responsible thing to do. I understand they're fairly minor changes, but I still think we should have a final one in hand before we accept it.
I tend to agree with you, Joe.
Yep.
How's the rest of the board feel?
I agree.
Okay, so we'll tap the brakes, get that data to us, and Mary Ellen is becoming good friends with this. And she dances with us a lot. And get it back to us as soon as we can. If there's any questions from the board, they can send questions out to you. And hopefully we'll be in a position next month to do this. My question will be, as a courtesy to Patrick, would it be necessary for him to come back next month? Or not?
I think after we see the final version, we can answer that for sure, but probably not.
So let's see where this goes for the board, but we have a little bit more data to send out for the final clean version, see where the comfort level of the board is, and we'll get back to you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it totally depends on your time frame now and, you know, reasons that you need a final report. It's perfectly acceptable to leave those line items as they are. I just wanted to point that out, that we're trying to clear those and have, as you normally have, final budget modifications to clear all of that over.
That's fine, but I also respect the comfort level of the board. Okay, so as soon as we can get the information back and forth, we'll move forward from there, okay? Is there a deadline to when we need to get this thing finalized? I'm not aware of any.
I'm not aware of any either, but I was looking for the final number today for Pat, so I'll keep looking. I'll call Williams tomorrow, because I couldn't find anything that was different than what I sent.
And Moody's has the all the information they need also?
I don't know, I mean, Williams might be able to tell me where to get the final numbers, what report to use, because part of that is me learning what's available there and reports.
Well, I think you're doing a great job as you're making voyage here. So, once again, work together, get the numbers back and forth to each other as you've done with the questions. Thank you so much for being forthright, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have something finalized that we can digest and see where the temperature of the board is, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so having had that presentation, we'll move on to number 8. Let's see if I can find it here. I tell you, we got pages and pages and pages. Don't we?
Page 34.
Amen. Thank you.
Yep.
Saved me half hour.
Page 34.
34, nope, we'll keep going. I'm looking for reports, so we'll get past
Yeah,
the,
I'm looking at
well,
reports too.
I'm looking at 39? Okay.
39.
Is right, that's the library.
Okay.
Yeah, that's backtrack. I have 33, then I have 37.
Oh, looks like you might be missing some pages.
Is there an extra one out there?
Well, my 34 has the library
Yeah,
report.
yeah, that's where we're at.
Oh,
Yeah, we're looking at
I thought you were
reports.
looking at the,
No.
Nope. So you can look at, here, and
I thought you were looking at something else.
here are the 2 reports you're missing.
Bless you.
Yeah, I already, yep, you're good.
There's 2 different versions of the packet too, the one that
Yeah.
turned out yesterday and today.
Well, today's is the final version, that's how I,
Yep, Ed just didn't,
I understand.
Ed's just missing 2 pages.
That always gets the scraps. Okay. So we have the library report in your packet. And youth services also in your packet. And there's a great ad there also on 36 for people. Hopefully they're interested in that. What else do we have here? Does Mike Sivios report?
I do not have one from him.
All right, let's move on then. Mikey?
Good evening.
The magic continues, Michael.
Beautiful day.
Beautiful. I don't know about the rest of you, but we go back down memory lane about when we got about 0 1 year in February.
Yeah. Yeah, let's not. Or when we had so much snow in 2 days. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. My report's in front of you. Kind of more of the same of how the year's kind of gone. Any questions at all?
There's a budget mod.
Yes.
Is that a joke, or is that just to see if we saw it or not? Is it really 29 cents?
It's really 29 cents.
You take this seriously, don't you?
It is.
Is that just a trial balloon to see if we would react to it and scream about budget mods, or what?
I tried to slide my change to Mary Ellen.
Make sure we didn't pay attention, right? I wonder how Patrick's gonna handle that one. Anyways, any other questions for Mike?
I have a question, but I don't think it's for you, I think it's more for us. I see that we still don't have an update about Ludlow Road, Snake Hill.
I can answer a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, are we just waiting for that? Do we want to?
We're kind of waiting for Stopen Engineering.
Right.
I've been in contact with Dondi and Dave
Okay.
every single month on this.
Right.
They have a rough
Can
draft.
you speak right into the mic, because I can't.
They have a rough draft. It is,
Okay.
it is not prepared for you.
Got it, but it's
Anybody here.
moving.
It's moving
Okay.
extremely slowly. But, I'm pushing along the best I can.
Okay,
So-
yeah, I just want to make sure that stuff was happening, even if it's
Yeah.
not ready for us yet.
I received it probably last week, and I was asked just not to share with the board yet, because it is not at all ready. But at a snail's pace, yes, but something is happening.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Now let's move on, thank you. We have the Park and Rec in your packet. And then I don't think I see an engineer's report. Now we have Director of Planning, John. So far, so good?
Been a month and still standing.
You came back.
Joe. So you have my report in front of you. I won't go through the whole thing. If you have any questions, let me know. But as far as highlights go, it's been a month of sort of circling the wagons and assessing what we needed. I met with staff to speak about what we do well, what we could do better, where folks would like to go. I've been working very closely with the bookkeeper's office. Mary Ellen has really been a huge help to me in figuring out civil service classifications, job descriptions, all kinds of fun stuff like that. So we are working on sort of changing our staffing a little bit, which we spoke about somewhat at the last meeting. So there'll be more information coming on that. Hopefully next month I'll have a resolution in front of you as soon as we can work out job titles and that sort of thing. Very busy month as far as committees go, everything from Water and Sewer Advisory Board to the Threat Assessment Committee, which I'm sure some of you folks are aware of. So we were busy on that front. We have draft floodplain maps from FEMA. If anybody wants to take a look at those, I'm sure you'll all be excited. Our engineers will be coming by to take a look at those shortly as well, and we'll be making comments to FEMA if we think that we disagree with that in any kind of way. With the Planning and Zoning Board, they are both actually reviewing the same project right now. They're both working on the Dandy Mini Mart project. We had a full house last night at the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that project continues to work its way through the process. It'll be back at the Planning Board later on this month to work through seeker. The Ag and Farmland Protection Committee met twice to discuss these zoning maps, the draft AGAR zoning. They have another meeting scheduled for the 9th of March, so they've made it through the mapping. They feel confident that they have a proposal they'd like this board to consider, but they're actually working through the text of the document now, and would just like to be able to present the town board with sort of a full picture of their opinion of the draft zoning. So you should have something in front of you for that by the March meeting. So they ask that this board continue to leave that issue tabled, if you would, until March.
Or further out, would be fine.
That's-
It's going to have March 9th, you don't have much time to look at it before the March meeting. The thing I would ask though is that I'm getting emails, I'm gonna forward them on to you and I'll let the board members out. Certain landowners want to have this one, their parcel in the ag or whatever. I think we have a summary someplace of that. Hopefully we look at the map. If somebody wants to be in the ag, even though if you own it, you pretty well have control over your own land. But I understand their concerns if they want to do that, and hopefully we'll have a summary of where those pieces are. I feel very comfortable if I'm going to put somebody else in a different piece, if the map's already there, unless they come to us for consideration. But I think overall, it seems like they're focused on a few pieces, which is a good sign. Most of the ag district seems to be okay.
Yes, I agree with that, Ed. There really have been very few map amendments proposed. Most of them were focused along Ridge Road. Hasn't been a huge change, but I think that the committee really appreciates this board giving them the time to review it, so. Okay. I have two things that came in very late today, actually three, that I'd like to put before your consideration for referral to the Water and Sewer Advisory Board or Water and Sewer Working Group. I'm not sure what we're calling it officially.
Yeah, well, this week it's a working group, but who knows?
So we have a landowner with a very small piece of property in the Consolidated Water District who would like to petition the board to be removed from the Consolidated Water District. And then we have two projects that would like to form separate stormwater drainage districts. So if we could, I'd like to have a referral made for those projects to the working group.
Okay, how's the board feel about that to give the La Salve more homework?
Seems reasonable to me.
We don't need a resolution.
No, we just need to go forth. We did, by the way, complete the last homework assignment that you gave us. And I don't know if you had that information, we're happy to share with you. You did respond to the applicant on that with a negative recommendation.
I believe that's later on.
I believe it's in the,
Yeah.
it's in the packet.
And that's fine.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate the really thorough and thoughtful response that we got back. It really explained the position, not just giving us an opinion, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. There's other matters here for review, I think, that's been brought to my attention. One is the potential drainage district at East Shore Circle.
Yep, same thing. Yeah, it's one of the two he's referring to.
Yes.
And the other one is the updated EDU formulas for exempt small plots of land.
That's the same request as the person petitioning to come out of the district.
So it's good to be redundant again. Okay.
Stole your thunder tonight, guy.
No, I didn't know for sure if you'd bring it up, so I thought as sort of chair of the working group, Ed could bring it up during his moments on his board report, so.
A preview of coming attractions. Okay.
Post to you.
Anything else?
That about covers the highlights. Does this board have any questions on my report?
I was wondering, under the status of fire inspections,
Yes.
it said 2022 there was going to be 75, but only 40 were completed.
That's correct.
Why is that?
Because we have one code enforcement officer with something like 220 some odd or greater open building permits in general. So we're understaffed as far as.
Okay.
And we're working on.
And you're working on that.
We're working diligently on that. I don't think a week has gone by. So we have.
That's true. We've been talking about it a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for?
I have a question. Could I just ask a quick question? So you said that there was two things, but I thought you mentioned three things. Did I? There was the small piece and
I
then
may have
there was two.
misspoke. So there was the small piece of property that wants to be removed from the Consolidated
Yeah.
Water District, and then two separate projects
that's
that
what I
want to
thought.
form drainage districts.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I'm good.
Comment. Preview coming attractions. I am very impressed by you. Your demeanor, especially when we deal with very passionate items. The thoroughness that you go through and the parameters that you keep. This is not a criticism of anybody else that has held that seat before you, trust me, but it's encouraging. You look for ways to do things in a very methodical but quick and efficient way. I appreciate our very short meetings, and you're here to get stuff done. So thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Next, town clerk report.
It's in the packet.
Okay.
I've collected a lot of money.
You have, haven't you?
I have,
Even with the challenges that were normally not there.
yes.
And we'll see with that.
And the town has received all of the money for my part of the warrant to go to you. You've received that. Great, so,
What a business when you get all your revenue up front.
yeah, there you go.
All right, I need to have you guide me through this again. This is monthly consent agenda.
Okay. I don't think there's much in here today. 4 things, so usually everybody picks one, reads it, and we do, at the end, we do the resolution.
Okay, Brown, you want to start today?
I'll start here. A, resolution approving highway department purchase of case compact track loader with accessories in accord with capital replacement plans.
Andra?
Item B, resolution approving highway department purchase of 2 Chevrolet pickup trucks in accord with the capital replacement plans.
Okay, Ruth?
C, resolution authorizing the execution of concession license and agreement for non-motorized watercraft at Myers Park.
Joe?
Resolution reappointing Board of Ethics member.
Okay. Having said so.
Shall we move this to consent agenda?
Andrew, is it you? Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what.
Andra made a motion.
I'll second.
Brian seconded.
Brian, second, okay.
I can never hear Andrew.
It's okay. So we have a motion and a second. Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Ruth Croft?
Yes.
Brian Winlowsi?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes.
Edward Levine?
Yes. Item 10 in your packet with a resolution approving audit and budget modifications and supervisor's report.
No supervisor's report. Sorry if I left that.
Resolution approving audit and budget modifications.
Yes, sorry.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Joe moves it and Ruth seconds it. Guys.
Sorry.
There you go.
I was starting the drum line for it.
Be back in an hour. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Ruth Croft?
Yes.
Brian Winlowsi?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes.
Edward Levine?
Yes. Board member reports. Andra?
I don't have anything to add to the library or the Lansing Youth Services, except we do need more members on our board.
Okay. Thank you. Ruth?
Okay, that's a long one. The Capital Improvement Committee, we went through and pared down a version of the capital plan, reviewing only projects that met the threshold of $500,000. Determining timing, cost, and funding source is going to be the primary focus going forward. I did meet with the town historian again, and there was a request put forward initially for funds for more tables and chairs, but that was withdrawn since they found them in other locations. The Conservation Advisory Council met February 2nd. John Steinmetz from Bergman and Associates presented 2 matrices that were used to develop the priority weighting for the open space criteria and several charts that portrayed the priority of the ranking process, comparing it to the results of the community survey question number 6, and the chart showing that the ranking process was very much in line with the results of the survey. However, the prioritization of the results is still in process. The CAC wishes to acknowledge their gratitude for the ability to engage Bergman and Associates in the process. Having their experience and expertise has made this effort much more efficient and credible, and they also wish to thank the town board for their continued support. They also are hoping to find better ways to communicate with the public, including educating homeowners on the mission of the CAC and the purpose of the Open Space Index and its impact. The Ithaca-Tompkins County Transportation Council, I met on February 14th. They approved the 2023-2024 Unified Planning Work Program and their 2023-24 budget. From the director's report, it stated that the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application for funds to complete a multi-jurisdictional safety action plan was successful, and the project was awarded $600,000. The addition of 20%, $150,000, local share brings that to $750,000. The congestion reduction program is a bipartisan infrastructure bill, which created a program that distributes funds to MPOs, which is municipal planning organizations, for use in projects that result in carbon emission reductions for transportation. And the ITCTC allocation is $463,000 over the 5-year period. And we've called for projects in December, and you have until February 24th to submit those. At the meeting, Liz Field, who is the director of Ithaca Car Share, and I think I sent out an email to everybody on this board about their issue, since numerous insurance regulations have prohibited them using, what do they call them, risk reduction groups for insurance. So that puts them in a real bind, because they either have to go to traditional insurance, which would be exorbitant for what they're doing, or they have to pause their services. So they have put out a call to the community to contact Governor Hochul to remedy that situation. And Scott Vanderpool from TCAT, who is the general manager there, also spoke to the group on the status of TCAT. There was a group from the Parks, Recreation, and Trails Committee that met with the 2 Cornell Design Connect teams. Rachel Elmkeys and Ellie Peterson are the 2 students from Cornell who are the team leads, and they're really phenomenal young ladies. I know one of them has done her education in real estate law. They have put the team together, and some of the students are included are majoring in planning, some in architectural, landscape architect. So that's just a few of the majors that are in the team. So it's going to be a really good team. They're looking forward to some site visits so we can go through our master plan that was approved and show them what we're looking for, where we're looking for it. And the team, I think, is really sharp. Like, for instance, Rachel brought up the aspect that about ADA compliance, which I don't think any of us had discussed at that point. So we assured her that the town was definitely interested in having that aspect as part of the plan. And I'd like to segue that into, get away from my report, but I just want to bring up that hopefully next month, March, I want to put together the resolution again for increased membership in that committee. And the reason we're doing that is that, first of all, we approved only 4 of the original members in our organizational meeting last month. There were 2 that had resigned, so those 2 need to be replaced. And we have several other members who some are already participating in the group, although unofficially, but we'd like to make them official members of the group. And they are all consistent with the, what do they call it, the requirements for membership in the group. And they all fulfill all of those requirements, not all of them fulfill all of them, but some of them fulfill them. We have members that we want to get on who are landscape architects. We have the CEO of the Lansing YMCA, who is interested in getting trails connecting from the YMCA to the town center. We have Chris Pedagrasso, who's the superintendent of Lansing Central Schools, which was one of the categories outlined in the original formulation of the committee. Steve Lawson, who is a registered landscape architect and former president of Architects. So we feel like we have a group of people who are really qualified to be on this committee and to meet all the requirements that were put forward in the original plan. So I don't know if you want to discuss that any further, but I'm going to put that forward for March meeting for approval for additional members on the committee. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Robin?
I I will balance Ruth's long report with a fairly short report. I attended the ZBA last night, and it was a really fantastic public hearing, really passionate and also respectful, and addressed the scope of what the ZBA is going to have to address. So it was just nice to see such engagement and thoughtful engagement, so.
Well, unfortunately, it wasn't streamable.
Right.
There's no, and that would have been nice. I gave up after half an hour, and that's fine, that's not about me. But I think, especially with ZBA, if you have some things like contentious, maybe you can schedule it on different nights so people can, if possible.
I think there was some, that was attempted, to my understanding, that there was a lot of trying to figure and work around.
It's not a
Yeah.
criticism, it's just an FYI
Yeah, it
for
was
the
a-
future, that maybe they schedule it on a different night away from the court. Because, we can't, this is a courtroom, and they get precedent.
Ed, you gotta speak into the mic.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
Yep.
No, the fact that perhaps the ZBA can meet on a different night if necessary, because it seems, at least nowadays, that the ZBA has some very passionate issues, and it was not on YouTube, nor was it taped. And I think there were comments that were submitted, but I would like to be able to watch it or at least review it. That might be something for the ZBA to consider in the future, either have a different night, because we have court that same day and they give precedent. It's just a suggestion. Okay.
I wonder if another solution could be finding a way to at least record it there, possibly.
I think that would be possible. I'm open to suggestions. If people can't attend, at least they'd like to review it, to see what the issues were from people's comments, regardless of what the issue was. Anything else, Grandma?
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, Joe?
I gave most of my report in an email today, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. The one thing I do want to bring up is I've had several citizens talking about the Route 34 bridge over Salmon Creek, and when the dedication ceremony happened, they talked about getting a name for it, and citizens have brought forward the idea of naming it after Peter Wheeler, because when he was held in slavery, he was actually held on the east side of the bridge, so it's really apropos to name the bridge after him. And so I would like to bring that forward as a proposal. New York State would name it, we would just, as a town, support that naming, and I'll bring that forward at our next meeting.
You're talking about the big bridge by the school?
Exactly.
Well, I think, in fairness, maybe we ought to open it up to the public to see if there's other names that want to come out for that, and see if there is a solution to that, and offer it over a period of time to other people who want to name it something else. If we're going to name that bridge, I think it's only fair that other people have a chance to do that also.
I understand. I'll point out that it was asked publicly, and so far I've only heard one response.
Well, I think we should, once again, publish it again, since have potentially moved forward on this, and if people want to do it, they have the option to do it then. But we'll see where it goes, okay?
Okay?
I mean, there is a plaque down there already, right, for Mr. Wheeler?
It's in Ludlow, yes.
Pardon?
In Ludlow.
In Ludlow. Okay. Okay. Anything else, Joe?
That's my report for now, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to backtrack a minute here. At some point, we're going to have to sign this contract, aren't we, for the concession stand? It's in the packet.
You approved it tonight, so yes.
I still have to sign it, don't I?
Yeah, but don't sign the one that's in here.
No, I'm just talking about procedure for later. You'll grab me. I think also Patrick needs to sign something else.
Yeah, I just have to look through it.
Okay, good. Well, let's take care of some of the housekeeping that we mentioned earlier. This is where John can help us also. About, you had three things?
Yes.
Okay. And I think the board gave the approval for the Wasabi.
Yes.
There's also a potential drainage district on East Shore Circle.
Correct.
That was one of them for us to investigate.
Yep.
And considering an update on EDU formulas to exempt small plots of land that cannot be built upon.
Yes. And then the last would be a drainage district for the Asbury Collins subdivision.
Okay. And the board's all okay with those three homework assignments?
Yep.
Okay. Good. All right, work session, the appointment and reappointment process. I think we're probably talking mostly what, ZBA and planning board? Is this something, we had interviews today, is this something that the board wants to continue when this comes up again for the ZBA?
Yes.
Or do you want to do the interviews, or do you want to form a committee like we talked about before?
Right.
Which way you want to go with this, where you had the supervisor, another board member, usually the liaison of that board, and the department head, and a staff member. Those 4 people would do the interviews and the recommendations to the board. Which way you want to go with this? I don't need an answer tonight, until we start a conversation. Because we had, I think, an excellent example of what we did today. If that's the way they want to go, then we can use it as a procedure for the future. If you want to delegate this to almost like a nominating committee, which is what this would be, and trust the appointment suggestions of the nominating committee, we go that way. Food for thought.
I just want to say that I found hearing people presenting in person really gave me a feel for who they were, much more than the paperwork, their resumes, their answers. And I was really impressed. It helped me understand who they were and make the decision of who I was supporting.
I really liked it this afternoon. I agree with Joe.
Yeah, I do.
Seeing them in person really
No,
makes,
I-
it makes a huge difference.
And quite frankly, whatever we do, I think we need to be consistent and say this is what we do from now on, so that the planning board can give the recommendations. Okay, we can still interview the applicants and see if we mimic that or not.
Right.
I guess my only question, and I'd love your thoughts on this, John, is there something that will be missing by not having the head of the department or a staff member within the department be part of that interview process? Are we gonna?
Yes.
Yes, that, right.
I mean, absolutely. We work very closely with our land use boards.
But I can't hit it
Oh,
down.
so I wonder if we were to do something where it's the board plus,
That's what I was going to suggest, a hybrid.
Yeah.
With the board and,
That would maybe the best solution, but go ahead, John.
My answer, Joe, is yes. I feel like the town board probably would be better informed with the, you know, the opinion or advice of the department head or a staff member, because we work so closely with the land use boards, the
Yeah.
zoning board of appeals, the planning board, and this is what I do every day, day in and day out, so.
yeah.
Well, let's expand this conversation then, perhaps having the town board do the interviews along with,
yes.
Yeah.
and also along with the chair of that board.
Yeah, I'd feel comfortable with that.
I think that's a good compromise.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable.
Because I think the members, as members of the town board, I think all of us should be able to hear what the other,
Right.
I'm not going to approve something that I'm not,
Yeah.
you know, privy to.
But I would find the advice
Yeah.
of folks who are
Exactly.
doing the work.
Yep, I agree.
Well, I think it's also indicative of the fact that we don't have people here that have grown up here forever.
Right.
And know everybody and know all these things anymore because they're growing so fast. That I think it would be, I don't want to use that trite phrase, due diligence, but it would be responsible of us to have another layer of information out there. But also have the input of the chair of that board and also the planner to see, okay, we have to work with these people. Here's my input on it, as you talk about it in executive session. What do you feel about this? Having gone forward, since we had those interviews today, do we move forward with those interviews the way they are now?
Yeah.
And start this process the next cycle?
I think so.
I think so, because.
All right, so,
So how do we does that become a resolution where we do for next year? Okay.
It's a procedure, or if somebody moves away now, there's a vacancy, or if somebody, whatever.
Right.
I mean, there have been times, as we said before, where I can count probably at least 3 of the planning board that they didn't fill out their 7 years.
Right, and is your question, Ruth, how do we make sure we do, like, what's
Yeah, I
the
mean,
procedure? Do we officially make this a resolution? Is there a policy and procedure?
Right, exactly.
Question, that sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you do know that you have a procedure
Yes, you
in
do, you
place
have to tweak it.
that you're not following, so you
So we need
need
to
to,
revise that procedure.
that's what I would
Yep.
say you need to do, because we're not following that. So you need to do away with that one and write up the one that you want to follow and then approve that one.
and I think we need to do that before we forget what we decided.
Right, we're not following that,
Yep.
even though we approved it. Just saying.
Okay, well, I think we've come to an idea of how we want to proceed in the future. Okay. Anything with miscellaneous? That's always dangerous.
Okay, I just put that on there because I included I needed to have a placeholder to put an attachment, and that was that was from the Water and Sewer Working Group.
Miscellaneous.
So I attached it to miscellaneous.
And the miscellaneous is where we need to approve the recommendation of what's out, is what you're saying.
I don't know if this has to be approved, it's a
We're just
recommendation.
not
I don't
going
think
to
you,
pursue anything.
Yeah, it's a recommendation. If you decide not to go forward, you decide not to go forward. If you want to, which I think would be appropriate, if you want to advise the applicant that based upon the review and study of the matter by the town board and its committees or advisory committees or whatever you want to call the working group, that the town board will not go forward with that main extension.
And this has already been sent to the applicant?
Not that I know.
Okay, not yet.
Because we're just an advisory board, we don't give people answers or take in their petitions,
Right, okay.
or, excuse me, working group.
So the action that may be in front of this board now is to basically take the advice of the working group, of the Water and Sewer Working Group, and then we can send a letter to the applicant. So having said that, should there be a motion for this, Mrs. Munson?
I refer that to
Guy?
Mr. Crowe.
It's up to you, I mean, you can accept it and approve it and resolve to have one of your members send a letter to the applicant. Sure.
Okay.
You don't have to, I mean, it's an advisory recommendation. You can, if you were going to go forward and authorize a map plan and report, then you would need a resolution. But if you want to, formally recognize it and agree with it and adopt it as your final determination on this matter, that would be fine.
Are we comfortable with that, the board? I know a little bit closer to this, having been on that board, but is everybody else comfortable with their advice? I know we did that also with consolidated district number 3 when we took the advice of Water Supervisor Board and dissolved it, basically, right? So do you want to accept the advice of the Water and Sewer Working Group and send a letter to the applicant? And so move it. Going with a motion? Is that good enough?
I'll second it.
Okay.
I actually didn't write anything down because I thought I was going along with the, you don't have to have
Right,
a
I
motion,
think we-
so I
Was
wasn't
that
writing.
mean consensus?
But if
Is
you,
that appropriate, Guy? Are we overstepping or? I mean-
No, you can make a motion out of it if you want to, that's fine. I'm not trying to be flippant or sarcastic, it's just, the whole reason that it was just a report that was submitted for you to review and decide, how you wanted to proceed. We put it in simply because it really didn't need any formal action. But if you want to formally adopt it and then authorize someone to write a letter to the applicant and say, sorry, your request was rejected, you could, they still have their outside user agreements, and the 2 people that are in can always apply to become outside users, and so you may end up re-referring something in a month or 2. But if you want to make a simple motion to accept that report and, adopt it as as the official policy of the town board and authorize Ed to send a letter to the applicant on behalf of the town, I think that's what Ed moved.
I did, he said, would it be me or would it be you?
There you go.
But it would be somebody, well, it's the town board that's making the determination, not the advisory committee.
But I mean, should we have the attorney do it, or do you want me to do it? I don't care either way.
You guys can decide. I don't know where my role would be in granting or denying a petition, but
You're talking about writing the letter, right?
Well, the letter's already, I mean, the advice is already there.
right, but you'd have to just write a letter to someone.
Yeah.
Theoretically, just take that advice and distill it in
Letter.
your survey.
Okay, I'll do it.
It seems like it's appropriate for the supervisor to write that letter,
Yes,
since
it
it's
does.
coming from the town board.
Okay.
That's, I'll do it if you want, but I would agree, that's what I was trying to say without stowing any thrones.
We have a motion then, and we have some guidance of what the town supervisor needs to do. And maybe I should not motion my own.
Too late.
So Ed, did you make the motion?
Sure.
Okay, and who made the second? Andrew, okay. Are we finished? Is there more discussion, or are we? Okay.
I don't think so.
All in favor? Aye. Joe, are you voting? Okay,
I'm in favor.
okay. Any opposed?
I didn't have to leave the room this time.
Actually, I want to go back really quickly to the appointment and reappointment process.
All right.
Two things. One is not to make a decision tonight, but I think that as we look at the working groups, using that model where there's maybe someone from the town board and someone in the department talking to people who want to be on the group might be useful. I want to talk about it more and think about it more, but that's one possibility. Sort of doing a lighter version of the board appointment process. So,
Okay. I mean, you can have different techniques for different groups.
yeah, for sure.
One that is not one that is a working group as an advisory group, you may have one type of.
Exactly.
I mean, the other thing, you don't want to make too difficult to get volunteers, because they're volunteers, right?
Right.
I.e. trying to get your pathways committee bigger, whatever, right?
Right, or maybe even not interviews, but maybe like you chat with someone, like you and John sit down and say, these people, do they make sense? That sort of thing, which you may be doing already, but just formalizing that a little bit.
Right.
And maybe you do one year approvals to see where it goes for somebody.
And then just for revising the policy, who is charged with that? Where does this sit
So-
now, and how do we?
So the way we're doing this right now is not the way to do it, so it's almost like you have to go back and change the law and then hang them, as opposed to hang them first type of thing, right? And it's like, this is the chicken and the egg. So we've gone to the interviews, even though it's not in the policy, but it does say in the policy that we may interview, as I recall, so I don't think that deviates away from
But I
that.
think we can clarify it.
So I think we're still following the policy there for these approvals for the planning board. Am I mistaken? If I am mistaken, will somebody please jump in?
I don't have that in front of me.
I do believe it says that the town board members may interview, as I recall, but we're not going to do an action tonight.
Right, I'm just, for the rewriting of it, who are we charging with doing that?
We can all work on it with Mary Ellen.
Wonderful, thank you.
On this to say, okay, where are we going with this first? Are we going, because once you get to this interview and you approve it, now you're going to have to do another change in the protocol.
Right, exactly.
Afterwards,
Like,
right?
think through all
For
this.
the new improved version of it.
Yep, okay, great. That's
But you may want to do steps in this, so it doesn't look like it's too chaotic, and say, okay, we'll do the changes, approve these, the applicants, wait a month, and then change it again, maybe let the dust settle.
Sure.
And go from there, okay?
From my perspective, when we're trying to figure out who's on boards and who's not on boards and all that, it would be helpful to know on this policy, I think this is what you were talking about, is it only for 2 or 3 boards or committees? Is it for all of them? It would, if that could be stated in
Right.
this?
My understanding is we just agreed that this is for the planning board and the ZBA
And the CAC?
and the CAC. And then, we'll talk, we still need to figure out
working groups.
the working group procedure, but I was just saying maybe we could model it on this, but not follow the same policy, yeah.
So the CAC, are they an advisor, but they also charge certain tasks, right?
Right.
They're what?
CAC is charged with certain tasks.
Right now, they're just an advisory. They're not a board at this point, they're just an advisory.
Okay. So maybe,
I wonder if they would be a working group also.
yeah,
Just be careful not to confuse advisory from the general municipal law with advisory from the open meetings law, with advisory from whatever policy or lack of policy the town has, because the confusion is that all three of those terms have very different meanings as applied and as you have been discussing them. Hence the source of the confusion that people are looking to clear up.
would you advise that we lump the CAC for this purpose in with the planning board and the CBA?
Well, I
Or,
like your pun, first off. I would probably recommend, given the core governmental functions that are performed by certain committees, that they would probably go into the more formal process like planning board and ZBA. And frankly, I think that would be, at a minimum, the CAC and the Board of Ethics.
okay,
They're both performing, important governmental functions. The CAC is advisory as compared to a conservation board under 239X, but it is not purely an advisory body under the open meetings law. So there's a distinction there.
Oh, my. Okay.
I'm comfortable
To
with that, guys.
be continued. Okay. Anything else?
No, thanks.
Is there any need for executive session?
Yes. Well, half enough, I want to go to
This is- I remember watching it, and I said, he's here for a reason, right? He's not here because we're so charming, he's here because, so you need to go and pertain to a employee? Okay,
I would also be interested in sale, lease, acquisition of real property discussion.
okay. We have two. So Brown moves that,
Yes, I'll move that.
I'll second it. Beat you to it, okay, thanks, let me have one.
Okay, that was Bronwyn and Ed, is that correct?
I'd like to share.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Do you need to stay? You might need to stay. Yeah. Bye, Drew. Does John need to stay? No. So,
You need to turn the YouTube on.
Mary Ellen, you need to stay?
I'm not staying.